Is your company developing enough talent? We've got what you need right here on the Leadership Voice. Welcome to the Leadership Voice. I'm your host, Jay Barbuto. Today's show is about talent development. Joining us are Daphne Felicitas, Vice President of Learning and Development at Lazy Dog Restaurants, and Kendra Angier, Chief Human Resource Officer at Cotality. We also have a leadership lesson with Dr. Phoenix von Wagoner. We have a great show for you. But let's get things started with our quote of the day. Today's quote comes from legendary former CEO of General Electric, Jack Welch. Before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. But once you become one, success is all about growing and developing your team. Our first guest today is Daphne Felicitas. Daphne is the VP of Learning and Development of Lazy Dog Restaurants and brings over 25 years of experience in the talent and organizational development field, including roles at Blizzard Entertainment, Oakley, and PacSun. Please welcome to the show, Daphne Felicitas.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let's jump right in. We're so glad you could be here on the show. Tell us a little bit about your journey and the stops that you've had along the way.
Yeah, I originally graduated from UC Irvine. I was a psychology major, and I've always been drawn to working with people. And right after college, I worked in education. And so that thing of wanting to help people grow and learn was always something that I knew I wanted a career in. But it was there when I worked at UC Irvine at the Career Center in career development. I was there for 6 years. I discovered the field of talent and organization development and went back to grad school for it. So I went to Chapman, got my grad degree, and since then have found my calling in life, if you will. I went through a quarter life crisis. So for people in their 20s, if they're feeling lost and they don't know what they want to do, that was very real and very, kind of feeling what am I going to do in my life? But I found talent development, and I was like, this is my jam. And worked at PacSun for a few years and got the opportunity to do some training for the retail stores, but also did a lot of leadership development there, change management, some things around team effectiveness and performance management. And it was great, and had the opportunity then to move into more action sports working at Oakley. And there I got the chance to work more globally. So doing a lot of global projects and global programming, and had the chance to travel. And so if people love to travel, depending on the kind of company that you like to work for, I really enjoyed getting to explore how to apply learning and development principles, organizational principles, but to different cultures. And so that was really interesting. Had the opportunity then from my network that I built at grad school to go to gaming, which was a totally different field, sharp left. So got to work in entertainment and the gaming industry and play a lot of games to learn product knowledge and increase my own product and industry knowledge. And was there for 6 years also doing kind of global talent and organizational development work. And then most recently, the last 5 years, have made another sharp left and went to Lazy Dog Restaurants. And so now I'm in hospitality and am loving it there.
So you've really practiced learning and development across several different industries, but the one core thing is that your love for learning and development.
Yes, absolutely.
So why is it such an essential part of an organization?
I mean, organizations are made of people. And so people really, it doesn't matter what generation you're a part of. It doesn't matter what function or discipline you do. It doesn't matter what age you are. People love to learn new things. People love to try new things and grow. And so I think that, the learning and development part of any organization is essential to helping people, grow in their roles and grow in their careers.
And so for a company, that is developing its talent, that has elaborate leadership development, learning and development programming. What are the benefits to the company?
The first thing that I would say is that it amplifies a company's culture and has the opportunity to also reinforce its values. So in learning and development, you kind of learn what's important here and what do we value and how do we get things done here. And so whether it's how we lead, how we work as teams, how we collaborate, what our strategic initiatives are and how we chase those, learning and development helps people, build those relationships and learn what's valued. And so it's a strategic part of how a company is going to grow and also during times of change, how to stabilize. And so I think the first part is that it amplifies culture and amplifies values and aligns decision-making. And the other thing is it creates a funnel of talent and people that will fill roles as the organization continues to grow.
It also helps retain employees, doesn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
So why is that?
It helps retain employees because, they want to feel like they're cared for. And I think that when people fundamentally feel cared for, they care more about the work that they do. They care more for the leaders that they work for. They care more for the coworkers and teammates that they support.
A lot of times companies hit budgetary constraints and the first thing they cut is training. What would you tell budgeters that are facing budget kinds of things, that are thinking maybe we should cut our training budget? What would you tell those folks?
I would tell them two things. First, I would say, let's get creative, right? There are ways that you can still invest in your talent and figure out ways to, still leverage learning from across people. That doesn't require a ton of funding. And then also, I would say, don't cut out learning, because it's those people who need to learn new skills to navigate the tough times that you might be in to help you push through that into whatever's next.
What roles must leaders play in this learning and development process?
Leaders play such an important role as like champions and sponsors. First, for the people that they directly lead. That's the first thing. They can assess people's talent, what their strengths and opportunities are, but also create opportunities for them to stretch them or connect them with people who can be good mentors for them. So they play a huge role in being a conduit for their learning and growth.
How does a company know if they're not doing enough in the learning and development space?
I think one of the first signs that you can tell in an organization that they haven't invested enough in their talent development is if there are some critical roles that chronically need to be filled and they don't have people who are ready for those roles inside. And we're always going to need those types of positions filled. And so if we don't have people ready and you're always having to hire from outside, that's a talent gap that you want to double down on and invest in so that you can, like I mentioned earlier, have people who know the company's culture, who knows what the values are and how we get work done here. And so those are probably the first places I would encourage them to target first.
So like a company like Lazy Dog,
sure,
you're growing at 20, 30% a year, which means that you need new restaurant managers.
Yes.
And you need new executive chefs.
Yes.
And so the restaurants that are currently there have to be developing future restaurant managers.
Absolutely.
To be able to meet the demands.
It's a culture of learning. Like everyone has to play a part. So earlier when I mentioned that leaders have to really champion, the development of their teammates, it's every leader throughout the organization doing that for people on their teams. And when you have a culture of that, it's not just learning and development that's owning it. It's a partnership in how it's, and that's when you truly get, people who are ready for those next roles.
And you could always just grab a store manager or a restaurant manager from another brand, another company. Why is it that the ones that Lazy Dog develops themselves, why is it that they always end up being better?
You're probably tired of me hearing me talk about culture, but I'm going to say culture again, and values. But I would also say that our concept is complex. We're a scratch kitchen. And so there's a lot that goes into understanding everything that goes into our concept. And so it's not just the culture, but it's also the concept and the brand and the organization itself that's a part of it. And even for people who you're bringing outside, you have to have strong onboarding, because I do think you do need a healthy balance of internal and external talent. And so onboarding is that way to kind of help the external talent come in strong as well.
I get the wonderful opportunity to talk to a lot of students and grad students and early career folks. And when I talk to them, there's a lot of people that tell me they're interested in getting into learning and development. What advice would you give somebody that has an interest in being in learning and development? What kinds of things would you tell them?
Sure. It was advice that I got from one of my favorite professors in college, and I would pass this along to them as well. I would say almost create your own rotation program in the learning and development space. Go get experience doing facilitation and instructional design and change management and all the different sub-disciplines, and get experience in different industries, because the broader your base is earlier in your career and you kind of have these varied experiences, the more options you have as you continue to grow your career and kind of really figure out what your niche is and what you love.
So you can actually start building a portfolio, essentially,
Sure.
of experiences.
Starting even with an internship, starting with informational interviews, that easy, starting there.
Now, that's great. Well, I want to thank you for joining us on the show. We're going to have you stick around because we're going to have a leadership panel here in just a little bit when Kendra joins us.
All right, I'll be around.
It's now time for a featured segment of the Leadership Voice. It's today's Did You Know? 84% of organizations expect a leadership shortfall in the next 5 years, driven by retiring baby boomers, high leadership burnout rates, and future skill requirement changes. So, if your organization isn't intentionally developing its future leaders, your company may face a leadership deficit. It's now time for today's Leadership Countdown. Are you ready for the leadership demands of tomorrow? Today we bring you the 5 essential skills needed from future leaders. Number 1, adaptability and resilience. Leaders need to be agile, embrace change, experiment, and bounce back from learning opportunities. Number 2, emotional intelligence. Understanding and managing emotions builds psychological safety, trust, and deeper connections within teams. Number 3, digital and business acumen. Leaders must master both digital and financial literacy to make sound, strategic decisions that drive business results. Number 4, strategic thinking and innovation. Leaders must see the big picture, solve complex problems, and foster creativity like never before to drive growth and innovation. And the number 5 essential skill for future leaders is coaching and collaboration. Leaders can no longer be commanders. They must be coaches and talent developers to cultivate collective success. Those are the 5 essential skills. Are you ready? Don't go anywhere. We have Kendra Angier in the studio right after a word from the Giles O'Malley Center for Leadership. The Bringing Learning to Work program is our way of connecting the faculty of Cal State Fullerton with the business community of Orange County and Southern California. We have over 72 training programs that are available via distance or face-to-face. And the faculty come to your company and they deliver the training to your employees.
The Bringing Learning to Work program is really fundamentally, it's leadership programming. We do diversity and emotional intelligence training. We partner with Cal State Fullerton because they had subject matter experts in these fields, and we're really fortunate and privileged to be able to do that.
Many companies can't afford training and development personnel, and so this is a great opportunity to leverage Cal State's faculty to help them develop their learning programs.
The leadership of the center and the students allow me to not only bring leadership development to my company, but allow me to interact with Some amazing students have grit, potential, and just amazing futures in front of them, and I get to take part of that. It's a wonderful feeling.
When your organization is ready to develop its talent, reach out to the Center for Leadership, and we'll help get you there. Welcome back to the Leadership Voice. Our next guest is Kendra Angier. Kendra is the Chief Human Resource Officer at Cotality, formerly known as CoreLogic. As a global HR executive with over 20 years of experience, she has led large-scale HR operations, helped improve organizational capabilities, and fostered high-performance cultures. As a champion of diversity and inclusion, she strives to help teams and individuals reach their full potential. Please welcome to the show, Kendra Angier.
Great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you sort of evolved through your career and ended up at Cotality.
I'm actually going to start while I was in college. So when I was at Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, another Cal State, I started in business. So my degree is in business. I started in accounting. And I realized pretty quickly that cost accounting was not my jam. And I switched to human resources as my major. I was very active in campus activities and kind of developing some leadership skills along the way. And as a result of that, I think it just really helped solidify that I wanted to be in a role where I could grow and mentor and coach and help others grow as well. From a career standpoint, through on-campus interviews, I ended up at Pacific Gas and Electric in a rotational program. So very few people get that classical training. My first 2 years, I rotated between corporate HR functions, field HR functions, compensation, career management, labor and contract negotiations. So just an incredible experience. From there, I went to Andersen Consulting. So at the time, Andersen Consulting is a professional services firm, so very different than union employees and power plants at PG&E. And I would say that that really leveled up my professional experience and really thinking about talent as assets. If you think about in a consulting world, your consultants are the revenue generating arm of the business, so a ton of investment on talent assessment, talent development, talent progression. And from there, I did some rotations through University of Phoenix and then Ingram Micro, which is a very large global technology distribution company headquartered here in Irvine, which gave me a ton of global experience, which was just incredible. But in those rotations at University of Phoenix, I actually moved out of human resources and into a campus vice president and general management role. So this was a great opportunity to be basically a P&L owner, profit and loss P&L owner, and take an operational role. So I did that for 4 years during a time where there was a lot of transformation within the business, a lot of regulatory impacts on the business that were causing pretty significant change. And the same thing, how we assess talent, how we rewarded talent, how we looked at student success, all those sorts of retention rates, what happens with their careers when they graduate from the university. And I was responsible for that entire student experience, from enrollment to graduation and everything in between, academics, facilities. It was crazy. If I think about how in the world I ended up in this role, I'm not quite sure. An incredible growth period for me. And I learned hands-on, like, leadership skills. It seems pretty crazy, but from vision to execution to accountability to driving results. And that honestly has been the most differentiating and defining experience for me as a CHRO.
So why is learning and development so essential for companies to prioritize?
So learning and development, it's not just training in the classroom. So I'm going to just take a little bit of a different, kind of twist on that, because I've learned so much through my experiences. If you think about early on rotating into different areas, which really creates that bigger kind of purview, right? If you think about kind of an eagle's view or of kind of how things work together. And then certainly in my business role also. So if you think about a culture of developing talent through experiences, through mentorship, and in the classroom, that investment really starts to create this growth mindset where individuals can really unleash their potential. I know that sounds pretty crazy, but when individuals do that and teams do that, that's when organizations thrive. And so that's really kind of this important piece around this talent development aspect, is to really invest in the growth of the organization so that everyone collectively can really unleash and create incredible business results together.
The experience
Yes, for sure.
as in a profit and loss environment
Yeah.
that you spent, so you've had to think about these kinds of things in some of your other roles. So as an HR executive, communicating with other executives and
Sure.
resource allocators, what is the return of investment when we start talking about L&D programming and L&D investment?
From a business standpoint first, it's about velocity. So if you think about just the speed of innovation, the speed of creativity, some of that, even think about like hackathons. Hackathon to me is actually a learning and development experience because you got employees coming together to create these really amazing ideas that help their learning at a super fast rate, but it also increases that velocity of innovation for the company. So first and foremost, I would say, is the innovation and velocity. The second thing really is around talent mobility. So if you think about employees getting an opportunity to really kind of navigate a lattice and have these incredible career experiences, not only does it drive and contribute to that growth and innovation, but the third piece is really around retention. So I would say that third ROI piece is around retaining top talent.
So what kind of an optic does it send to up-and-coming, high-potential managers, leaders of the future, when they see others getting promoted from within?
Yeah. Well, first of all, making that visible so that employees can see that people are moving. So we'll call it career mobility. It's not just progression, but that's part of it too, is we expect about 30 to 40% of our employees to be making those moves internally every year. So that means that somebody would have a new job or a new role or an expanded role every 2 to 3 years. That's a pretty big commitment, and that's something that we strive as a company at Cotality. So employees will always have the at-bat. So that's kind of, I think, the biggest thing is that they have the opportunity for promotions. When we bring in external talent, it's really on us as leaders to make sure that we're bringing people in, as I mentioned before, that have a greater skill set, a greater capability, a greater network, that they're giving that back to our employees so our employees will grow and thrive as a result of bringing in that external talent. So that's really, I think, what the balance is. But it all starts with talent capability, talent gaps, and building our talent together.
Thinking of talent gaps, what is the consequence if an organization stops investing in its talent?
I would say for a leader, first of all, you can't cut your way to growth. So if you think about people as assets, human assets, versus technology assets that depreciate over time, human assets appreciate over time. And so philosophically, it's that growth mindset that I would say first is where are we as an organization with that? In the short run, not investing in talent development will cause you could have some regrettable losses. So great talent that leaves for other kind of opportunities or other companies that have that culture of investment. Or I think worse yet is that you have quiet quitters. So in other words, you have apathetic employees that are like, if you're not investing in my growth, I'm not going to give the discretionary effort to give more because I'm not sure what that will yield. So that's short term. I think in the long term, it goes back to the business risk, which is around that innovation, that velocity, and those the performance results. And so again, I think statistics are kind of interesting, but there are 92% of companies that have that growth mindset innovate. They innovate 2x and they perform 2 to 3x from a financial standpoint, more than companies that don't invest. So I think it's really more around stagnant versus thriving organization. Where do you want to be?
In my role, I get to talk to a lot of executives, and one of the themes I hear is that one of the things that keeps executives up at night is like retaining top people. Like, how do I find them, get them, and keep them?
Yep.
How does learning and development interface with retention?
Yeah. I mean, we've talked a lot about that investment in talent and that ability to see somebody really grow and have amazing career experiences and working with different people, learning from different people. Thriving organizations attract and retain great talent. So one thing I just want to kind of share with you, I think it's interesting at Cotality, there's two mantras that we have when it comes to our talent and being this learning organization. First, we talk about being an academy organization. So think about Cal State Fullerton as an academic, right, academy organization, where you have students that want to learn. That's our employees, right, high-performing employees. You have incredible faculty, like you. Those are our managers, right? And you also have this amazing network of alumni that are reference points that you go, wow, somebody that worked at Cotality is now a CEO of another company, right? And so we kind of look at our alumni as a referent or a reflection of who we are also. So it's this whole idea of like, what does it mean to be an academy organization? And how do we continue to be a talent magnet so that we are attracting, retaining, and growing the best talent internally? So it's pretty systemic, but you can't have that if you're not investing in the growth of our talent.
So even if sometimes you might lose some people to other opportunities, the fact that you're developing them and growing them sends a signal that this is a great place to be for a period of time in your career.
100%. And they wouldn't be where they are if it wasn't for the experience and the growth that they've had with us.
What would you tell a CEO then? If a CEO was thinking, well, what should we do? How much should we prioritize this? Budgets are tight this year. What would you tell somebody in a resource allocator role that was thinking of potentially making changes to their L&D budget?
It's kind of like, don't cut your nose to spite your face. That sounds awful, but it is one of those things where I think that's just very short, it's a short-term view and a fixed mindset when it comes to development and to the potential of the organization. So it's risky. I guess that's what I would say. It's risky for a variety of reasons that we've already talked about. I do think that the benefits of developing a learning organization, a growth organization is, again, not only do you attract, but you retain talent and you become this incredible talent magnet. I mean, I just think that talent is the secret sauce that delivers and drives results for a company.
I want to thank you for being on the show today and joining us. And I'm going to have you stick around so that we can have a panel discussion. We'll bring Daphne back.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
It's now time for our leadership example. Today's example comes from the Giles O'Malley Center for Leadership. Every year, the center recognizes the top companies in the Southern California community that are developing their talent with innovative programming and policies. Today, we bring you the complete list of organizations that have been recognized at the Annual Leadership Awards of the Center for Leadership. Don't go anywhere. We have our leadership lesson coming up right after this. Welcome back. It's now time for today's leadership lesson. Today we hear from Dr. Felix von Wagoner.
I'm Dr. Felix von Wagoner. Welcome to today's leadership lesson. I want to talk today about something that has bothered me for a long time about how we develop leaders. We invest a lot in training, workshops, retreats, coaching programs, and most of them are well-designed and well-intentioned. But if you ask leaders 6 months later what changed in how they actually lead day to day, the answer is usually not much. What the research tells us is that behavior change doesn't happen in a room. It happens in the small decisions leaders make when no one is watching. How they start a meeting, whether they check in with somebody who's been quiet, how they respond when something goes wrong. Those moments don't happen at a retreat. They happen every single day. So a few years ago, my colleagues at the Max Planck Institute for Intelligent Systems, San Diego State University, and Cal State Fullerton and I started asking a different question. Instead of how do we teach leaders more, what if we gave leaders a structure for learning specific behaviors, practicing them in their actual work, and reflecting on how it went? What we built is a simple text message-based tool. Each morning, it introduces a specific leadership behavior and asks a leader to build one concrete action plan around it, something they can actually do that day with a real person in a real moment. In the evening, it asks how it went. That's most of it. 2 weeks, a few minutes a day. We also collected data from the leaders' teams throughout, asking the people who work with them what they were noticing. And that part matters because how we think we're doing and how others experience us are not always the same thing. What we found, published in the journal Human Resource Management, was that leaders' teams reported real changes. They felt more supported by their leader. They felt a stronger sense of belonging. They were less likely to be thinking about leaving. And both leaders and their teams made more progress on their goals. What strikes me most about these findings isn't the technology. It's what they suggest about development itself. That it doesn't require a big investment of time or money. It requires a decision, made quietly every morning, to be a little more intentional than yesterday. I'm Dr. Felix von Wagoner, and this has been today's leadership lesson.
We are back for our leadership panel. Daphne and Kendra, thank you both for rejoining us.
Glad to be here.
Absolutely.
So we have 3 questions that each of you will have a chance to answer, and Daphne, you're going to go first. First question, do's and don'ts. Each of you will share a do and a don't related to developing talent.
The first one I'd say is do meet people where they're at. Organizations where they're at, people, teams, individuals where they're at. Start with where they're at and help them and accompany them on where they're headed. In terms of a don't, I would say don't get stuck in old ways. Always be open to experimenting, innovating, trying new methods and ways of learning.
Okay. So same question for you, Kendra. Do's and don'ts related to talent development.
All right, so my do is going to be a double do. So
Okay, sounds like a drink.
I know, right? We'll come up with that cocktail name later. So, but seriously, I think business results, so it needs to be linked to the business, right? Business outcomes. But managers need to be the learning leaders. So the don't, so managers own the learning and development and coaching and progress of their teams to drive business impact. That's the do. The don't is don't subjugate learning to one organization like human resources or a learning team. So in other words, it's owned by the organization and not necessarily kind of franchised to one department or one function.
So an effective learning and development plan or an effective learning and development program is one that carries through all layers of the organization.
100%.
and everybody in the organization plays a role.
Yep.
All right, second question, and Kendra, you're going to answer this first. What does the future of learning and development hold? In other words, what is going to be in our future?
So learning is such a fun space because AI is transforming quickly how learning is developed, how it's delivered, how it's embraced within organizations. So think about three things. First is learning will be personalized. So if you know, for example, your learning goals, maybe it's a skill gap or you are aspiring or achieving to be in a different, kind of area, or perhaps maybe it's a hobby or something that you're just interested in learning about. Personalized learning based on what AI knows about you is going to push to you learning. And those learnings are going to be micro learnings. And some of those learnings will be in the flow of work. So think about, you want to build a skill, not just learn, but you want to build and practice a skill in X. You'll have an AI assistant that will act like a simulator that can role play and do simulation with you immediately, right? So that interaction with the learning tool or an AI assistant is incredible. The third piece is that learning will be democratized. So in other words, any manager, any leader, anyone in an organization can create learning on the spot. High quality learning, whether that's a role play, a simulation, a podcast, a push out of information, but leaders are going to be able to create and deliver learning to their teams, which we've never had before. So this idea of democratized learning is really powerful.
All right, thank you. So same question for you, Daphne. What is the future of learning and development?
Yes, I agree on the how AI is we're going to be reimagining the way that we design, we create, and we deliver, learning. And I completely agree with you. I think learning is going to be way more accessible. We're going to be able to be more efficient in the way in which we create it. And I think AI also will unlock capabilities that we don't currently have or haven't had in the past. But I will say that even though it's going to make us more efficient and more accessible, I also think that the future of L&D is that people will still even put a more priority on personal relationships. A mentorship will still have, if not even more power to them in that connection, or cohort learning where they can get with a group of people to learn together. So I think we're going to unlock and increase learning through AI, but we're also going to yearn and want to double down on learning that's still through human connection.
So if AI is going to be changing the whole landscape of learning and development, what should we all be doing then to prepare for it?
I think for the average employee, I think we're actually having to learn how to integrate it into our work processes. It's one thing to experiment with it and to test it out and say, oh, wow, look at what the capabilities are. But it's another thing to say, how do I use this in the way in which I creatively design things, the way in which I analyze things, the way in which, even like you said, micro learning, like micro coaching, if you even will, using some of these tools. For us, some of the capabilities that we're able to unlock are like language. Like now AI is integrated into certain Teams meetings where people can be speaking different languages, but you're hearing it translated live into your primary language. Those are some of the things that we didn't have access to before, and language was more of a hurdle that we had to figure out. And so I think there's some things that we're like having to integrate it into our work processes and also take advantage of in our programs.
What about you, Kendra? What are the things we need to be doing, knowing that artificial intelligence is going to be changing the entire landscape? So what should organizations be doing now to get ready for it?
You got to lean in. So I would say the one thing is we made a decision to make a chat AI tool. So think about GPT or Gemini, or there's all these different things. But every employee has a license, and we're tracking the adoption rate so that we can see how many people are using AI to either assist or augment their work today. Obviously, we're not at that automation phase, but what we're finding in surveys, which by the way, we're between 65 and 80% adoption across the organization. So I would say voracious appetite to get in and start to, how does it help with writing an email or doing an analysis, right? So you can creating PowerPoint presentations. So when we've surveyed our employees that are using these tools now, they've said, we can't imagine doing our work now without these tools because we are 2x more productive and we're way more creative having this assistant by our side that I can't imagine being without AI. Okay, we just started using AI, I think collectively as like a general society, maybe 12 to 18 months ago. So think about how crazy that is. So I think one is for organizations is to lean in and start to experiment and just adopt and embrace. And whatever tools we're using today might not be the tools we're using tomorrow, but just getting in and applying. I'd say the other thing for leaders, which is super difficult with all of this transformation, they need to be 1, 2, 3 steps ahead of their employees. So that lean in and that growth and experimentation and learning really on their own. I have learned so much through podcasts. This last year has just been a voracious learning year. And there's so many different places to get that information. Some of it's even peer networks of other CHROs. What are other learning teams doing? What are other technology teams doing? And then bringing that back to my peers in the organization so that they can learn from that too. But it's just really we're at such a fast clip of change right now that it has to be a high pace of learning across the board, and our leaders have to demonstrate that.
So not only do organizations then need to be prepared and prepare to use these AI tools, but there's a learning and development need to learn the tools themselves.
100%. Yeah, we've spent a lot of time on investing with our teams how to prompt, how to share how they prompt, because the better you prompt the AI, the better results you'll get. We use it now for like an AI coaching tool. So we've created gems in Google Gemini so our leaders can use the same gem, ask questions, and help them prepare for feedback and coaching sessions, how to write that and put that into a performance appraisal. So I've challenged my team to be the leaders in terms of how we're using it, but there's been a lot of education with our teams and best practice sharing. I think we've had something crazy like 40,000 hours of just AI type training this last year.
What's interesting is you can actually also ask AI, teach me the ways in which I should be better using you for these purposes.
Yes.
And it will break down for you how to create a master prompt, how to create a system prompt, how to do these things, and it will actually teach you how to use it.
Isn't that amazing? Well, it's now time for the final word. This is where each of you will have one final chance to share some final piece of advice or a pearl of wisdom. And Kendra, you will get to go first. So what is your final word for our audience?
Be a life learner and live with curiosity.
Be a lifelong learner and live with curiosity. Daphne, same thing. What is your final word?
All right. Well, we've all had people who've been a big influence in our life. So go be that type of positive influence for others. How you do it and how often you do it is really up to you.
Terrific. And there you have our final word. I want to thank you both, Daphne and Kendra, for joining us on today's
so glad
show.
to be here. Yeah.
Yes, wonderful.
If you have a question or need advice, connect with us by email, leadership@fullerton.edu, or on Instagram @CSUF_CFL. Thank you for tuning in to today's show where we talked about developing organizational talent. Thanks to our featured guests, Daphne Felicitas and Kendra Angier, for sharing your expertise on this important topic. A special shout out to Dr. Felix von Wagoner for delivering today's leadership lesson. Join us each episode of The Leadership Voice, where leaders bring you the latest best practices to guide your strategic decisions and realize your extraordinary possibilities. Please visit us on our YouTube and remember to like and subscribe to get episode releases and special features. I'm Jay Barbuto at the Giles O'Malley Center for Leadership at Cal State Fullerton, and we'll see you next time right here on The Leadership Voice.